So this great piece of theater comes out, and it's Jon Jones on, I believe, Instagram. I saw it, so it must be Instagram, because he's got me blocked on Twitter, and I was able to see this. He's clearly on a smartphone. Garage door rolls up. Two guys headed towards Jon. He greets them both with handshakes, and then they all turn around. So now the smartphone shows us that the garage is a home gym. And the caption is, shaking the dust off, Jon, getting a workout. All right. Now, there's a story being told. What is that story? It would seem as though Jon's still in MMA. It would seem as though that foot that he had in and that foot that he had out, and he said himself last week when he re-entered the testing pool that he wanted to keep options open for everybody. Well, one way to preserve those options is to make sure that you're still good at the sport that you may or may not be agreeing to do. So we're being told this story. I want to know. I don't ask this rhetorically. I'm not attempting to answer a question. I'm asking a question. But would you believe him? Would you be excited? Can Jon manipulate, convince you, the fan, through the media enough if he decides I'm going to come back and I'm going to fight Tom Aspinall? After all these months dating back to November of last year where he's consistently said I'm not going to fight him, and then even really doubled down on that, leaving the pool, retiring from the sport, relinquishing the belt. Is that a fight that if that got booked, you could trust and believe in? And if so, how? What would Jon need to do? Could it be an interview? Could Jon come out and just speak directly to you guys and go, listen, here's what happened? Could he come clean and go, look, I said goodbye to the sport and instantly started to regret it. I said goodbye to the belt. I felt big and strong in that moment. That I was standing on my own, but now I realize I need a team. I need you. I need the organization. I need Aspinall. Like, could he just come clean? And before he could get that fight, he's got to get to where that answer is yes. Before the promotion, I mean, we've just seen this, right? History repeats itself. We just saw it 2 weeks ago when Francis, who was the heavyweight champion and did not lose it in battle, he gave it back contractually. He lost it on paper, but we saw where he tried to return 2 weeks ago, and the UFC was very direct in saying we have no interest in doing business with him. It ended right there. There was absolutely no door open. Before the UFC would have an interest in doing business with Jon, they would have to know that you are going to believe it. I'm just wondering what it would take to get there. Now, if we were to go by the contract, Jon's pay would be to show. When Jon relinquished the belt, he voided the part of his contract that calls for participation. What you hear is back-end money, more often referred to as pay-per-view points. And the only way you can ever get rich in MMA, like if that's your big dream, I'm going to be a fighter, meaning when I stop being a fighter, I choose what I do with my time. I don't have to have something else. I can just have had that in my background. You can get there, and guys have, with one commonality, which is they all fought with the activation of the participation portion of the contract, meaning they were paid back into points. And you get that not for fighting for the championship, not the night you become champion. That activates universally through every contract, whether you ask for it or you don't ask for it. It's boilerplate. It's in every contract when you defend the championship. So when Jon has this conversation with the UFC, he's going to then have to explain to them, by the way, I'm expecting activation of the participation portion of my contract, the same as I had the last time I fought and so many other times before that. And the UFC is very likely to look at that situation and say yes. But they wouldn't have to. There would have to be a conversation. There would have to be an amendment. There would be actual, literal paperwork that would need to be done. So now you would have the UFC essentially negotiating against themselves for a guy who in the present form has one fight. There are not two opponents you want to see Jon fight. There are not three opponents that you want to see Jon fight. I understand that things can change. In present form, there's one opponent. Which, by the way, if Jon was to come back and make his big announcement that I'm coming back, I don't know if that would be accepted, for one. Again, because of the trust. But I could tell you, if it was accepted, it's going to be an even firmer planting of the feet in the ground that you have one opponent and it's going to be against Tom. And now, because of the way we've done it, you're going to walk out first as opposed to walking out second, but everything else is same, and off we go. That's a tough one for me to believe. There is a component of this that is unique, which is Tom's next fight has not been announced. That's a very unique spot. We've had other guys that have walked away from a belt and changed their mind and wanted to come back. But the next title fight was already established. Just give you a great example. My friend Henry Cejudo walks out at 246, makes a jackpot full of money, becomes, in my mind, the most successful combat athlete of all time. Olympic, UFC. Says that he had enough, but he changed his mind. Hey, I'm still young and I'm still good and I still miss this. I'm in the gym every day coaching, getting my own workout in. Why don't I just go compete, right? It's one of these things. Sure. The UFC says, sure, we'll have you back. And we'll need to find an opponent for you and figure out what that means, and it won't be a championship match. But likely, whoever it is, if you win, would draw you into a championship match, or at most there would be two and you'd go into a championship match. Henry explained this to me at one point, but it was a number of years ago, and I'm real close on the details. I'm 95% there, and Henry even wanted to change weight classes. He wanted to go to 45, and he wanted to challenge, was it Max at that time, or was it Volkanovski? And the UFC pushed back on that and said, no, we want you at 35, but win one here. If we go to 45, fine, but you're not getting a title fight. Just do one here. In fact, I think Volkanovski was the champ, and that's who Henry was challenging. And the UFC said, come up, fight Max. Get through Max, go to Volkanovski. Either way, my point is the same. Which is you had a champion who never lost, who gave the belt back. And when he decided to return, didn't just walk right back into that same position. It's very difficult to believe and accept that Jon would just come into a match. Could be about anybody on the roster. And what would that match represent? At a minimum, would we understand it's a number one contenders match? Because if you become the number one contender, you draw right back into Tom, who is the guy who you have said since November of last year you're not going to fight. So what would be different after a victory, let's say, over Volkov? What would change? And nobody has the answer to that question, nor do you need to have the answer. You just have to have a trust that there is an answer, that it will lead to something. And that's the problem as I see it right now. I don't know of any statement or match or return to the gym that in and of itself would repair the broken trust.